balancing forces. Okay, so let's get started widening the limits of your comfort zone. Hello, 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 Transurfer and the Transurfing Curious. I'm in a goofy mood today, you guys. This is Reality Transurfing TV, y'all, and today I'm going to start my 4-part series on some deep slide work. So I've really been enjoying these 3- and 4-part series because I get to get in there and get into some of the details and really lay it out for y'all rather than just trying to cram a bunch of details into one 15-minute video. So today we are going to start slides. We will begin with widening the limits of your comfort zone. Then we will move on to visualizing your goal, visualizing the process, and then transfer chains, which is absolutely what I'm doing right now. And the really cool thing about transfer chains is that, this is just to give a little teaser so you see it all the way through the series, but the really cool thing about transfer chains is you get to back up off yourself. You get to back up off your goal. You get to ease up on reality a little bit and trust this process, which is just focusing on the task at hand as outer intention brings to you. And then you perfect and work on that process or that task or whatever that link in the chain is. And then you just move on to the next one. And it's like, you don't really have to think about very much. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. It works. It's much more relaxing than the alternative, right? Which is, you know, freaking out or tripping out about your goal. Oh my God, that seems so lofty. How am I going to get there? I don't know all the steps. Oh my God, it seems so overwhelming. I'm going to have to figure this all out. It's going to be too hard. I might as well just give up now, right? This is kind of like the typical modus operandi for, you know, a non-Transurfer. And I'll admit I used to do this in my past and kind of like forfeit the whole thing before I even got started because, again, I was just like throwing myself into this big vat of ambiguity soup about how my goal was going to be achieved. And the cool thing about reality transurfing, you guys, if you want it, is you don't have to do that stuff anymore. And the 4 lessons to come in this series are just gonna kind of like lay it all out. It's really easy. It's really transparent. There's not much missing. And I know a lot of people like, you know, send questions all the time. This is probably one of my most common questions I get. What do I do? Do I visualize the goal? Do I visualize the process? I don't understand. What if I have multiple goals? What if I, you know, and there's all of these kind of like questions about how to do it. And I'm gonna lay it down. I'm gonna drop it like it's hot starting today. Before I do, remember to like this video, comment below, subscribe to this channel. All of our courses, Reality 2.0, Tufty 2.0, Mo Money, and Becoming Magnetic, links below. There are tons of reviews in there, you guys. So if you're ready to like kick it up a notch or take it to the next level and you want to hear what some Transurfers have said about these courses after the fact, I would definitely urge you to go take a look and follow us on the Facebook group, International Transurfing Institute Facebook group, Instagram, reality_transurfing, and the t-shirts, the Transurfing TV t-shirts. All of the proceeds go to this channel and we have some awesome designs. I'm still waiting for mine. I've got a lot of excess potential, I'll admit. Actually, I have so much excess potential that the first order I placed, my credit card declined it because they said they didn't recognize the charge, and the thing didn't let me know until 2 days later. And I was like totally devastated because it was supposed to be the next day that I was supposed to get the shirts. And I was like balancing forces. So there it is, balancing forces. Okay, so let's get started widening the limits of your comfort zone. Okay, so before I dive into this text, I just want to say that reality creation and having more of what you want is actually pretty simple. And it took me a lot of education of this stuff to realize that you can only have that which you can acknowledge is available to you, and that which you resonate, and that which fits in your comfort zone. So if you imagine your comfort zone is like a box and the walls are your farthest reach, they are where you max out what you can grab onto or grab hold of from the alternative space. So the idea isn't so much as you being able to, venture into the alternative space to go get what it is that you want. It's about expanding the walls of your zone of comfort to incorporate more alternative space so you have easy and available access to higher and better stuff. Took me a long time to understand this, and I'm going to give you my example of a big way that I did this and how it's worked for me, in the long run. And some of you probably heard this story before, but I will explain it at the end of this chapter. So let's get into it. Widening your comfort zone. Are you filled with the ambitious desire to become a star or a millionaire? If so, can you give yourself permission to become one? Most people believe that fame, money, and power are the privilege of the chosen few. But in this case, who chooses the chosen ones? Primarily, they chose themselves, and only later is the choice confirmed by others. If you dream of something but cannot allow yourself to have the dream, it just will not happen. A homeless person may stand in the street gazing through a window at a Christmas table, but can they allow themselves to sit at the table and eat? Of course, if invited, they would accept. It takes decisiveness to walk into a house and sit at a table, i.e., inner intention. But, as the homeless person is well aware, who would extend such an invitation to them? The Christmas table exists in the layer of someone else's world. Is the homeless person ready to have this table in their own home, in their layer of their own reality? They know that they do not have the house or the money or the means to earn it. Outer intention will not give the homeless person anything because at the level of pure common sense, they are not actually ready to have. Suppose you want to get rich. Would you be ready to accept the gift of fate? Of course, if someone were giving away a spare million, we would all find it in ourselves to accept the gift without any problem. Wealth will not ruin your life as some films with a moral try to teach us. But this is not my point. Are you ready to take that million? You are probably thinking that I mean that the million must be earned and won, but this is not what I mean either. Are you ready to simply choose and allow yourself to have? You have to come to terms with the idea that you will achieve your goal. If you want to be wealthy but are afraid of walking into expensive shops, you will not achieve your goal. If you experience discomfort when visiting an expensive shop, it means you are not ready to give yourself permission to own expensive things. The shop's assistants in such places can tell immediately who they are dealing with, a potential buyer or a window shopper with an empty wallet. A buyer acts as if they are in control and holds themselves in a calm, confident, and dignified manner, aware of their right to look around and choose. The curious window shopper, who is hungry with desire but poor, behaves like an unwanted guest. They have a tense, stiff, slightly inhibited manner. They sense the evaluating looks of the shop assistants and all but apologize for daring to appear in such a prestigious place. The merely curious visitor simultaneously creates a whole range of importance potential: desire, envy, feelings of inferiority, irration and dissatisfaction, because not only is the shopper not ready to allow themselves to have all this material wealth and luxury, they do not even consider themselves worthy of it. For the mind harps on, none of this is for us. We are poor. We need something a little more modest. And the heart takes what the mind tells it, literally. Give yourself permission to be worthy of the luxury. You genuinely deserve the best. Destructive pendulums only instill the idea that you must cut your coat according to your cloth, because it is to their advantage to keep you under control. Walk boldly into expensive shops and look at their wares with the manner of an owner and not a servant to a wealthy house. Using self-suggestion to persuade others that you can afford to buy expensive things is, of course, futile. So how can you find a way of believing and giving yourself permission to have? To begin with, let us distinguish between the realms of inner and outer intention with the phrase, be willing to give yourself permission. People who are used to thinking and acting with the limits of inner intention tend to be quite categorical. I cannot afford this. Full stop. What else is there to say? Well, it is true that there is not any point in trying to persuade yourself that you can afford something expensive when all you can feel is your pocket is an empty wallet. Here, though, we are talking about something else. Inner intention entails the decision to act, i.e., to find the money. However, because the money is not there to find, the mind announces a pragmatic verdict. You really will not achieve anything at all if you act solely within the realms of inner intention. Outer intention will not hand the goods to you on a plate like manna from heaven either. For how can something come to you if even you will not give yourself permission to have it? Outer intention requires the will to have. In other words, considering yourself worthy and knowing that it all comes down to your personal choice. With outer intention, it is not so much a matter of believing as knowing. Okay, so this is actually a very, very interesting section of this book, because, and I know I've talked about this a lot, but it is so valuable, my story of widening the limits of my comfort zone in regards to jewelry, going into the Cartier store when I was younger, when I was poor, when I had no money, when I was overwhelmed by debt. I don't know how I had the insights to do it, but I knew that if I could go into Cartier, this was with no jewelry on, no money, no outward display of wealth. I really did feel awkward at first, I'll admit, but I knew if I could go in there and become comfortable with doing exactly what Vadim Zeland is referring to in this book, shopping around as if I have control and I'm not the slave in a household, but the master. And I'm there to pick something, to choose something that I want. Now, again, I didn't go in with the intent to actually buy something. I didn't go in with the intent to put something on a credit card. And even if I had the money, I definitely wouldn't have spent it on a piece of retail Cartier jewelry. To this day, I don't even think I've purchased retail Cartier jewelry, but I do have a lot of jewelry. I have a tremendous amount of jewelry now. So here's the thing. What I did was I incorporated, by doing this, I incorporated into my reality a space that I could feel as though I was ready at any moment to accept something as luxurious and as expensive as Cartier jewelry. Now, again, not the intent to buy, but the intent to have, and to convince my world that I was deserving of these fine things because I was allowing myself to be so. I was allowing myself to be so. So here's the trick, and this is exactly what Vadim Zeland is referring to in the latter part of what I just read, with this idea that it's ultimately outer intention that is going to bring you what it is that you are allowing yourself to have. This is how people become self-made millionaires or billionaires. There's plenty of stories in this world of people, being born with nothing and rising to great heights financially and with wealth. And this is exactly how. Most people are going about it with inner intention. So what I talked briefly on in the beginning of the video, the end lesson, transfer chains, what happens is most people say, okay, well, I want to become a millionaire. That's my intention, and I'm going to allow myself to have it, right? They kind of convince themselves that they're going to allow themselves to have it, but it is sort of not really believed or felt, and they become quickly overwhelmed with the task. Well, how is that going to happen? Well, I don't have any current opportunities. Well, nobody's reaching out to me with some new way in which I can, pump a bunch of energy and fuel something that's innovative or interesting or whatever. Nobody's offering me that. Well, as soon as you do that, you're moving away from exactly what's being talked about here, which is outer intention, bringing up to you exactly what you need. It's almost like, and I've said this before, you're hanging a sign on your front door saying outer intention is not welcome here. The mind gets so preoccupied with trying to figure it out rationally that it quickly becomes overwhelming, and that box of comfort, the limiting little zone that you've confined yourself to, you're like, well, I guess this is just my lot in life, and I'm not going to get there, so I might as well give it up. So it's kind of like a triple action sort of thing. You let the inner intention sort of dissolve and you say, okay, what is it that I want? What is it that I want? And how can I visualize myself having it? Visualization is the second part. So as soon as you can incorporate and embellish this, incorporate the slide with more detail, embellish it with more detail, and really get in there and envision yourself holding the thing, having the thing, being the thing, doing the thing with as much detail as you possibly can. This is slowly pushing out those walls of your comfort zone. This is you allowing some space for the third action, the outer intention, to come in and actually show you the way. But again, most people don't get there because they either give up on the inner intention stage, or they give up in the limiting little box of comfort stage because they're like, well, these things aren't meant for me. I don't know how this is going to happen. I don't know if I deserve this. And again, it's like hanging a sign out on your door saying outer intention, don't come here. So if you can visualize, if you can start really seeing yourself, just like I did when I was 25 years old walking into Cartier, I was imagining myself being able to walk in and buy whatever it is that I want. And you know what? I can go into Cartier today and I couldn't afford $1 million ring right now, but if I wanted to go in and buy myself something that I really want, I totally could do it, right? I have expanded out the walls of my belief system to incorporate this idea that I in fact do deserve and have the ability to go into Cartier and buy what it is that I want. And sure enough, you know, it's taken 15 years. I'm not going to lie and say that it was instant, but I can do that now. I can absolutely do that now. The ways in which I have achieved me getting the material stuff that I want. Again, I've got a ton of freaking jewelry, you guys. This is kind of like this is my specialty. I am magnetizing jewelry and fine stuff like crazy because I have turned it into an art form, really. But the reason that I have all of these things is because of outer intention. Inner intention, Renee, would never have been able to pull this off. Outer intention, requesting what it is that I want, letting my world show up to me, right? I would go into Cartier and think, you know, this is awesome. I'm going to figure out some way. I'm going to figure out some way. And then sure enough, I take a job at a pawn shop where I'm selling vintage Cartier items on eBay. So there, I'm just a little bit closer. And then I decide that I'm going to do it for myself. So then I'm a little bit closer. Then I'm growing my capital and I'm finding places to source vintage Cartier. And before I know it, all of this stuff is exponentially increasing in my layer of reality because I have expanded my zone of beliefs, my zone of comfort, and incorporated that sector of reality, being comfortable with it, expanding the limits of my comfort zone, and allowing outer intention to flow up to me and show me exactly the ways to achieve my intention. So it's powerful. And I talk about this in my money course to wrap this video up. I tell people, whatever your version of wealth is, I mean, white trash version of me that didn't have anything except a bunch of debt and, you know, really poor quality stuff and clothing and all that. For me, my version of wealth was to be able to go into Cartier and buy whatever the fuck I wanted to buy, right? So whatever it is for you, is it owning a beautiful home paid off? Is it having a thriving 401k? Is it eliminating all your debt? Whatever it is for you, figure out a way that you can put yourself in that environment and really start pushing out some of those walls, allowing the alternative space in, different lifelines, different sectors of reality, and then it's easier. Your reach doesn't have to be far. Outer intention will bring it up to you. And oh my God, is it bitchin'? I go to my security box at my bank sometimes just to look at all the beautiful jewelry I have. And it's awesome and I love it. I love it. And it's like a miracle magic trick. I did it. It took me 15 years, but you know what? I'm happy that I decided to figure it out and do it. And I know this is just a material thing and it's just an example, but it's a good one where you start off and where you end up. It all has to do with going after expanding those beliefs, right? Expanding your zone of comfort. So the next one, visualizing the goal. I hope you will tune in for that one. And thank you so much for watching, y'all. Bye, guys.